Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Just Law on IQRA TV. I'm your host Ilyas Bulbulia and I'll be with you for the next hour. As our regular viewers are aware, on Just Law we normally discuss an area of law which is of interest to you, our viewers. Secondly, more importantly, on Just Law, it's a live show, so whatever questions that you have on any aspect of English law, you're able to call in and ask us any questions, concerns, queries that you have. Now on this show, I should be able to cover most aspects of English law, matters ranging from immigration law matters relating to which we get numerous calls, but other than that, should be able to deal with any other questions that we have. Maybe it relates to family law matters, personal injury matters, criminal matters, etc. So whatever your questions are, whatever they relate to, the number that you can call on will be appearing at the bottom of the screen. So if you give me a call, and hopefully we can have a discussion in relation to that. Now obviously on a live show we're not able to take very detailed information from you when you call in. If it transpires that I do need further information, then I will ask you to leave your number with the control room and then I will ring you after the show off air. And again, if it transpires that I need to look at your documents before I advise you, then again I will ask you to leave your number with the control room and then I will have a look at your documents and then call you back. But in my experience, the vast majority of questions that we get live on air, I should be able to deal with those matters live on air. So whatever queries you got, the number that you can ring on will be appearing at the bottom of the screen. Now, as always, we normally discuss an area of law which is of interest to our viewers, which is topical. Normally, these matters relate to immigration law matters, simply because a lot of our viewers have a lot of queries relating to immigration law. And one of the topics we discussed last week or the week before related to European applications, people who are here as European nationals, as their family members. What can they do? Very topical at the moment, bearing in mind what's going on at the moment. But another related topic to that is the issue about nationality. Because a lot of people are thinking, well, you know, we want to at some stage get indefinite leave permanent residence. We want to secure our position by being able to obtain a British passport, which is normally the last stage of this long process that people go through in the United Kingdom. For example, there might be a husband or wife who's come over from abroad, from India, Pakistan, Bangladesh. They're here, they've got their spouse visa, they've been here for 2.5 years, they've extended their visa, they've got another 2.5 years. Now they've completed 5 years in the United Kingdom. They're applying for indefinite leave, so which is fantastic. So they've already gone through all these different steps, from entry clearance applications to an extension application to their indefinite application. Now, what is then left, the final stage of this long drawn out process, is for them to apply for nationality. Why is nationality important? Well, it is when you get nationality that you are then able to apply for a British passport. Without nationality, you cannot obtain a British passport. So it's this long, quite drawn out process, which somebody who now comes on a spouse visa to the United Kingdom, if you look at timing, it ends up being that approximately 6 years, 5.5 years to 6 years after coming to the United Kingdom, they normally end up being able to acquire nationality and a British passport. And during that time, they would have gone through numerous different stages to get to where they are. But obviously, it's not just people who are here on a spouse visa who are able to apply for nationality. Those who are here maybe as European nationals who've spent the requisite time in the UK, they've acquired permanent residence. Again, final step for those people is to get nationality. Those who are here under the work permit scheme, or the new scheme which covers work permits, the Tier 2 general scheme, again, for them, they've spent their 5 or 6 years in the United Kingdom, they've acquired their permanent residence, their indefinite leave based on their particular visa. And what's the final stage? The final stage is nationality, which is what is required to obtain a British passport. Now, A lot of people ask, well, is it really that important to get nationality? We've got our settlement, we've got our indefinite leave, whatever it is that you call it. Is it really that important? Because we've got the permanent right to reside in the United Kingdom anyway. We've got the right to reside, we can leave the country, come back in again. If we want to claim public funds, we can claim that. If we want to use the NHS, we can use that. We've got all those benefits by getting indefinite leave to remain in the United Kingdom. So do we need to really get a British passport? Do we need to spend extra money to get a British passport? My advice normally in that situation is to say that yes, definitely you should obtain a British nationality. In my experience, I think there are two reasons why it is important to do that. The first reason is that if you have indefinite leave to remain, if you leave the United Kingdom, if you simply have indefinite leave to remain, you must come back into the United Kingdom, even if it's just for one day. You must come back into the United Kingdom within 2 years. If you don't come back within 2 years, then that indefinite leave lapses. So you have no right to come back into the United Kingdom again. You have to start all over again. Whatever visa it is that you become eligible for at that stage, whether it's a spouse visa, work permit, European visa, whatever it is, the whole process has to be started again. So one big advantage with nationality is by leaving the UK, you don't lose that visa, that nationality status, like you can potentially lose your indefinite status. So okay, that's one huge advantage for somebody who has nationality. The second advantage is that if in the very, very unfortunate situation you are involved in a matter which leads to a criminal conviction, it may even be a serious motoring matter which leads to a criminal conviction, which ultimately leads to a prison sentence of 1 year, then the Home Office will, in most circumstances, they will revoke your indefinite leave to remain in the United Kingdom. So if in the unfortunate situation that something's gone wrong, you've been convicted, and again I say it may not be a pure criminal matter, it may be something to do with a serious motoring accident which leads to a motoring conviction, but which ultimately leads to a prison sentence of 1 year, then the Home Office will always, in my experience, move to revoke your indefinite leave to remain in the United Kingdom. Now, if somebody had British nationality, then that conviction is not enough for nationality to be revoked. Now, you might have seen in the news, on the press, about the situation in which nationality can be revoked as well. But these are very, very limited circumstances in which nationality can be revoked, where there are very serious terrorism-related offences. Then there's a possibility where somebody is a dual national for the UK government to revoke somebody's nationality. But in 99.9% of cases, if you have nationality, your nationality will not generally be revoked. So that's another reason why it's important to get nationality. You don't lose your nationality if you leave the UK for 2 years or more. And if you have nationality, it generally can't be revoked, even though you end up in this unfortunate situation where there is a criminal offence that's been committed. I think the third example, which may be less common, is that if you have nationality, then even if your children are born abroad, you are able to pass on your nationality to your children. If you simply have indefinite leave to remain, then it's more difficult to then pass on your nationality to children who are born abroad. So it's important that if your children are born abroad, where that's a possibility, then you must really obtain nationality first. Otherwise, there may be difficulty in your child who's born abroad getting nationality. So those are the reasons why it is very important to obtain British nationality as soon as you can. And what I want to do today is to look at the requirements which need to be fulfilled in order to make a successful application for British nationality. Now, anybody who's been through the immigration process will know that there are many requirements which are fulfilled all the way through the different stages that one goes through, from that entry clearance application, from that extension application. There are requirements, there are documents, etc. that need to be submitted. Likewise, in this final stage of nationality, there are very strict requirements which need to be fulfilled. And if they are fulfilled, then the application for nationality should succeed. So that's what I want to do for today. But if your questions relate to non-nationality matters, then by all means do give us a ring. If they relate to nationality matters, that's fine as well. Whatever your questions relate to, the number that you can call on will appear at the bottom of your screen. Now, when somebody normally sees a lawyer to look at making a British nationality application, the first thing that you look at in your sort of a standard application where somebody's been here on a spouse visa, etc., the first thing that you look at is whether the person has indefinite leave to remain in the United Kingdom. So in the vast majority of nationality type applications, in the vast majority, there are exceptions, the applicant will need indefinite leave to remain in the United Kingdom. So as I was saying before, nationality is normally the last stage of the immigration process. So by the time somebody is looking at nationality, they would have normally acquired indefinite leave to remain. So the first thing you look at is, have you got indefinite leave to remain? So there are, at that stage, no time restrictions on their right to stay in the United Kingdom. So that's one of the first requirements. What do you then look at? The second thing that you look at is the residence requirement, which is how long has the person lived in the United Kingdom. Generally speaking, I think this is similar to a lot of other European countries and other countries throughout the world. Nationality is generally based on a person having spent a significant amount of time in the country where they are applying for nationality. In very rare circumstances, you may be able to obtain nationality by because you've had it by descent or because you've invested a substantial amount of money. But in the vast majority of cases, nationality is dependent on having lived in the United Kingdom. So what are the rules relating to residence? The main thing that you look at is who the applicant is married to. So the person who's applying is married, legally married to a British citizen. The rules for that person is different. The person who's applying for nationality, if they are married to somebody who is not British, who may simply have indefinite leave to remain in the United Kingdom, if they're married to somebody who's not British, again, the rules relating to residence is different for them as well. So let's take the more common example where somebody is married to a British citizen. So this person has got indefinite leave to remain in the United Kingdom. They're married to a British citizen. Now, for them, the residence requirement is that they need to have lived in the United Kingdom for a total of 3 years. And there's no requirement that they need to have spent any time in the United Kingdom after having obtained indefinite leave to remain. So it's not after you've got your indefinite leave, you must wait another year or so after trying to apply for British nationality. There's no waiting period as such. As long as you've got your indefinite leave to remain, and as long as you've lived in the UK for 3 years, you are eligible to apply for British nationality. So that's another, it's easier where somebody is married to a British national. Contrast that to a situation where somebody wants to apply for British nationality where they are not married to a British national. They're simply married to somebody who has, let's say for example, indefinite leave to remain in the United Kingdom. Their situation is slightly different. The residence requirement for those applicants isn't 3 years, it's actually 5 years. So they need to have lived in the United Kingdom for five years. And even after they obtained indefinite leave to remain in the United Kingdom, they must wait 1 year before they make their nationality application. So it's a 5-year residence requirement, and there's a requirement that they must have lived in the UK 1 year, or they must wait for at least 1 year before they apply for British nationality. So the residence requirements that need to be fulfilled for somebody who's married to a British national, somebody who's married to a non-British national, are completely different. Now, in practice, where you're dealing with spouse applications, with the new rules that have come in since 2012, applicants normally need to spend 5 years in the United Kingdom anyway before they acquire nationality. So before they acquire indefinite leave to remain in the United Kingdom. So that whole process that spouses go through, husbands and wives go through, they have to be in the United Kingdom for 5 years before they qualify for indefinite leave to remain. It's when they qualify for indefinite leave to remain, it's at that stage they become eligible to apply for nationality straight away, because they've lived here for 5 years, they've got the indefinite leave to remain, they're married to a British national, there's no need to wait. As soon as they obtain indefinite leave to remain, they are able to apply for British nationality. So that, in a nutshell, really is, in terms of timing, that is what one is looking at. You wait until you get indefinite leave to remain. If you're married to a British national, you would have lived in the UK for 5 years anyway, you can apply immediately. If you're married to a non-British national, then, as I said earlier, you will need to wait 1 year. So that distinction is quite important. Now, the other thing that we should really bear in mind is a very unusual rule relating to residence. And occasionally people do fall foul of this rule as well, which is basically that, let's say you're applied on the basis that you're married to a British national, which means that you need to have lived in the UK for 3 years. Now, when you make this nationality application, the Home Office will look at the date you apply, and they will go back 3 years, because your application is based on 3 years residence. They will go back 3 years and they will look at, were you in the United Kingdom 3 years prior to that or not. If you weren't, then you won't be granted indefinite leave to remain. If you were, then you will be granted nationality. So this is a slightly unusual rule, where if you're relying on the 3-year residence, or if you're relying on the 5-year residence, the Home Office will go back 3 years or 5 years from the date you apply to look at whether you were in the UK or not. You must have been in the UK 3 years or 5 years before your nationality application, which is very, very unusual. But people do fall foul of that on certain occasions. Now, just sticking to residence, I know I've said that you're married to a British national, you need to have been here for 3 years. You're not married to a British national, you then apply after having lived in the UK for 5 years. Obviously, in that time period, whether it's 3 years or 5 years, obviously it's likely that there will be occasions when you might have left the country. That may be for a short holiday, that may be for a longer period. Now, I'll look at that in greater detail after I've taken the next call. Hello, assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Ji.
I'm calling regarding a leave to remain application that we made.
Okay, yeah.
And we applied for it in early March, and we did the priority service.
Okay, all right.
However, we haven't got a reply, even though we were supposed to get a reply within 24 hours.
Okay, what kind of application was it that you submitted?
So it was a family route application, and this was the second time we were applying for renewal.
All right, okay.
So my father was the main applicant, and we, as his kids, applied with him.
Okay, were you applying under the 10-year route or the 5-year route?
The 10-year route, yes.
10-year route. And
yes.
you know the form that was submitted, was it the FLRFP?
That's right, yes.
That you should have really got a decision on that. Because
so we contacted the Home Office, we emailed
what did they say?
Again, they gave a really generic email back saying, we know we're processing application, and just bear with us. But again, there was nothing that made to give a reason for why they haven't responded.
I know. It's very unusual. You paid the extra fee. That should have been processed. I mean, in my experience, these applications, did you submit all the required documents? Like
we did. Like we literally double checked and everything. We made sure everything was submitted.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So like we don't know what's causing this issue. And I mean, one of our employees actually told us, like, because obviously our visa's expired now, they got in touch with the Home Office and they said to them it's fine, they can continue to work. Because we're still in the process of giving a decision for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I mean, they're responding to the HR team from my workplace.
Yeah, because the HR team will do a right to work check, and that right to work check goes to a different department. But the right to work check, because the only thing that they're checking is whether the application was made in time and whether it's pending or not. So they will come back very quickly within 24 hours, sometimes within 2 or 3 days.
A few hours,
within a few hours, and say, yep, no problem, application is pending, and yep, it was made on time, so they can continue working. So they're getting better on the right to work checks. But it looks like your case has just got stuck. Problem is, what do you do in that situation? Emailing then,
really tricky.
You then go to the MP and say to the MP, oh, can you write a letter on our behalf? And you get the same generic response back saying, thank you, your application raises complex issues, and that's why it's taken us slightly longer to deal with your applications.
But this is why I understand, because it's a renewal. We've already applied once before for renewal in 2016. So I don't understand like what might be causing an issue. It's not like we're submitting it for the first time for review.
No.
It's just a simple renewal process.
I think you're right. It's a simple renewal process. There shouldn't be any issues. Now, some of the... I'm assuming it's parents and some children who
That's right, yes.
Are some of the children over the age of 18 now?
Yes, that's right.
But even then, they might want to see that the children who are over the age of 18, they're still living with parents. But in my experience, even if there's not enough proof that they're living with parents, what difference does it make? The children have lived in the UK long enough anyway to qualify under their own right. So very, very unusual.
I mean, when we made the initial application, we were under the age of 18.
Yeah.
And that's why it was.
I sort of thought that, but then you were under the age of 18, but you would have lived in the UK for more than 7 years, I assume, and that's why it was accepted. Now, obviously, 2-3 years later, you've now been in the UK for 10 years or something. So,
We've actually been in the UK for 19 years now. So,
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, we got our decision given 2013, but before that, we were already in the UK since 2001.
Right. Okay. So, did you, in terms of passports and everything, you took your passports along and they were scanned in? And they
everything.
Were checked.
We went to the service centre that they have and scanned our passports, our residence permits.
Biometrics. Biometric cards were scanned in.
Yeah, we complied with everything, I would say, and our documents were thoroughly checked there as well to make sure they were, rightly scanned and everything. So
because the reality is, because on a second grant of FLRFP, all you really need to show is that you've continued to live here. There's no requirement to work, no requirement to study, there's no requirement to be actually living with your parents as well. So all you have to show is that you've lived in the UK, so you've got your residence documents. So I can't see why it should take that long. But the problem is, what can you do? I don't think there's even any point going to your local MP, because your local MP will get a similar response to what you've got, which is, it's still under process. So and the thing is, if you've made like a family application where you've got 3, 4, 5 people applying, you've all paid an extra £600. So it's a substantial additional sum that you've paid, and you've not had anything. The thing is, to be quite honest, there's no. So what I would do is, if you don't get anything in the next couple of weeks, realistically, the only thing you can do is go to your MP and say, look, we paid an extra sum of money to get this processed. We've not had anything back. No harm in doing that. I don't think that will necessarily get you an answer quickly. But then, having said that, there's no harm in doing that either.
Yeah, I mean, it's worth a shot, isn't it? Because I think, for us, obviously, we can continue to work, but it's just the travel restriction now, because obviously our residence permit has expired now. Yeah, you can't. And obviously, it's just a lot of stress, like having to wait. It's that unknown period. Exactly. Is that unknown period now? So it's not great. But that's why you paid the extra money. Exactly. But that's right. That's why we paid for it. I think try the MP the next couple of weeks. I think that may well be the best option for you. But brilliant. Thank you very much for your call. Unfortunately, we've come into our first break and we've had to finish that call slightly earlier. We'll be back in the next couple of minutes.